would start, but he has to go like that. This is just on your ready.
Kendrick rolled me right out.
Yeah, you deserve to get rolled out. But you see how bad you see how you treat Kendrick, and you see how you treat
I
me.
immediately apologized.
Yeah, you wouldn't immediately apologize to me.
That's not true.
No,
anyway.
Okay. Anyway, so we're gonna do a little flip it nipper here because our guest has to leave early, so we're gonna deal with him in the immediacy, and then Ace Newbold is coming by as well, so Ace will get in on this, and then we'll do our post stuff. You hear your boys over there, right? Redemption song. They just and they're deaf. These
they haven't
people
done it in a long time.
No, they do it because you know why? Every time I come in, I didn't do it today. I literally stop. And all I do is open the door, and then when he sees me, he goes down from 11 to like 8.5. Okay, there's no appreciable difference.
Scared.
He just but they're literally deaf. They can't hear. The whole generation of deaf people. Mm-hmm. So anyway, our guest this afternoon is the Honorable Minister. How you do? Minister, the Honorable, or the Honorable
Minister,
State for
Investments.
For Investments, Mr. Khaalis Rolle. How you doing, man?
I'm super.
Well,
how are things with you guys?
Good, man.
Good.
It's a great statement. I'm super. Yeah.
Can't come with it.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm super duper.
Yeah. That's honest.
Yeah.
You answer.
No, that's Kirk Smith. What is he calling me for? I can tell him I had to call him back. That's Craig Smith, and that's sad because I don't like to miss Craig Smith. So listen, what I want, I'm glad you're on, and I appreciate you coming. I know you got a busy thing tonight.
No problem at all, man.
And I've been meaning to get you here for a while because I don't know where this conversation is going to go. Mm-hmm. But the big thing for me is how we can at least discuss, if we don't accomplish it, the kind of simple. What I see as simple obstacles to, alleviating frustration, if that's the way I could phrase it, in this environment. Okay, and there's a lot of frustration, and sometimes, Khaalis, I see things that I think people kind of take to DEFCON 5, and the despair starts to feed on itself.
Right.
But I sometimes just want to say to people in positions to people who are in positions like yourself, why? Mm-hmm. Now, the question I'm asking you is, we've got a scenario where we've gone from something like 58th, if I remember the number correct, some number like that, to 121 in ease of doing business. Yeah. Okay? And Rogan, you say out of 190, but in reality, you don't even need to know what the number is because you've gone from 58 to 121. That's the
major
number.
Slippage.
Why?
Well, the simple answer to that is a part of it is inertia. Most countries that pay attention to those type of measurement tools, they've done many reforms over the years, and they've been very deliberate with those reforms. It's not that we're getting worse; everyone is just getting better.
Well, we've heard that Edison,
you look
Sumner,
at you look at the type of reforms these countries do. Mm-hmm. You look at Jamaica, and I've always been an admirer of how Jamaica has looked at their country, looked at the doldrums and said, we want to change it. And they took deliberate steps to doing it. The year before I got into politics, I had a discussion just generally on Jamaica's National Development Plan, which was at the time Vision 2030. And they were very deliberate in what they wanted to accomplish. It just didn't happen overnight. They knew exactly where they were. They looked at the numbers. They realized that Jamaica was not an easy place to do many things. Business is one of those. And they studied it. They came up with a plan. And subsequently, they started to execute that plan. Every result that Jamaica is getting today, someone just didn't wake up and say, this is what we're going to achieve. They studied it. They came up with Vision 2030. Right. And if you read Vision 2030, you would see that all of the reforms that were necessary, they started to do.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
So what are we doing then to improve our economic competitiveness? Because if we're being outpaced by countries like Jamaica and St. Lucia, Barbados, what are the steps for us?
Well, that is why we've been pushing so hard, along with the private sector, civil society, and many of the NGOs, to implement this. Well, first, craft this national development plan, and then subsequently implement the national development plan. Look, you don't get good results by just standing still and thinking about it, coming up with ideas. Ideas are one thing. After you come up with the idea, you have to have a mechanism to implement and to execute. So it requires a whole lot of reforms. And
I'm an impatient person, so I'm not going to be the one who espouses the value of plans, even though I know the value of plans, but I also know the value of now.
Right, exactly.
Okay, because there are some things that require planning.
Right,
there's no doubt about that.
Right.
But there's some things that require now. So if I'm thirsty, I'm going to get some water. I'm not going to plan to get water. I'm just going to get the water.
Right.
Okay. And then maybe what I'll do is plan how not to run out of water in the future.
So what if you're in a situation where that water is in the ground? You don't just automatically, you need it now, you need it to survive, but you have to have a path to getting it. Even with the now, I'm a now generation, and you've heard me publicly sometimes criticize the government process. I don't run away from that.
But when I say now, for instance, and let's just use water as an example. In order to get water, everyone knows on the planet you can just dig a well, and you can have a pump. Right. And you can just go and get water. Right. Now, that's not the ideal thing. Right. And at the end of the day, that's not the greatest form in order to distribute the water to everyone. Right. But at least people aren't dying of dehydration. Right. Exactly. They can go to the pump, they can get the water. Right. You don't have time to say, you know what, until we get this great distribution system, we're not going to have any water. Exactly. Okay? You got to get some water.
Yeah, no, you're right. Okay? But you look at it this way. We've done some things. Both governments over the years, they've done some things to change our lot. They have. But
I guess to your point, we haven't gone backwards. People have gone forward.
Right. Yeah. They've done some things. There have been reforms over the years, both by the former administration as well as by our administration. But for all of those reforms to make sense and to give you the net benefit, positive net benefit, it has to be comprehensive and integrated. Reforms within just as a standalone does not necessarily.
They have to be.
They have to be a part of an integrated process, and we have not done that in many years. So governments work extremely hard in one area to achieve this particular goal, but the inputs to making that goal successful. Like education, for instance. I believe Jerome has put a lot of effort into trying to get good results. And I think when you look at some of the recent results, it's being reflected. But to get from D, or whatever the national average is, to C or B, you have to solve a lot of other problems that are not related to education. What education results is the outcome. If you have a single mother of 4 kids who, for all intents and purposes, her kids are latchkey kids because she works at the Tribune and she lives South Beach, and she got to leave on her lunch hour at 3 o'clock to pick up her kids, drop them home, and then run back to work, and the kids are alone, and nobody is supervising them. It's difficult. I see it with my wife.
But I want to go away from. I want to get back to business now. Right. I want to get back to business. So let me give you an example. The national, what is it? LPIA, the airport. If you recall back some 6-7 years ago, it was taken over by a private concern to manage. Right. And they recognized in the immediacy that what were the big frustrating points for people. And there were 2 specific issues. One being primarily bathrooms, the condition of bathrooms, and 2, the breaking down of the baggage belts.
Right.
These were two specific things that no matter how screwed up everything else was, these were things that people dealt with.
Right.
Okay? So what did they do? When they came in, they looked at a mini plan where, A, they're going to fix up the bathrooms in the existing terminals, and they would see how what other bathrooms they were going to fix would fit into the overall plan.
Right.
And B, how they could fix the baggage, what do you call those, belts, so that this could no longer be a complaint.
Right.
And they even looked at how those new belts could be included in the new design. Okay?
Right.
So right off the top, they took a lot of heat off themselves because two immediate needs were met.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
Now, we got a situation here, taking this to the business world, opening up a bank account. We don't need no plan.
No, you don't.
Okay?
Yeah.
It is a known source of frustration. I'm going to tell you because I'm tired now of where I've been going. Rogan doesn't even know how much I've been following this. But you remember when we started it, right? With the bank account. I have been advised by the Clearing Bank Association over the last 7 months or so
Right.
that they are considering with the central bank that they will relax the need to have a passport. But here's what they tell me. They have to go to a subcommittee of the Clearing Bank,
Right.
and then they will make recommendation to the central bank. I'm divulging a correspondence.
Right.
And this is what they say. And we can't get to that subcommittee till June.
Right.
This is now February.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't have a meeting on this or whatever they're going to do till June.
Right.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is how you move the bar while you're getting the bigger picture. Just listen, we now have a national insurance card. There's a picture on it.
Right.
Just tell me I can open up a $B bank account with my national insurance card.
Yeah.
Boom, end of the
Right.
discussion. Figure out all that other stuff
exactly.
later. Fix the bathroom.
Right. Well, we are in an environment of overregulation in the
Yes.
Caribbean. Overregulation. And to show
It took
you
us 1 month to put all the regulation in. It's taken us 10 years to get rid of it.
Right. And just to compare and contrast, a typical Bahamian can get off a plane in Miami with a passport and walk into Bank of America and open up an account.
I do. See, I have one. I've been paying it. Central Bank can charge me or whatever they want to do.
And you can do that in a matter of hours.
Not
Minutes.
even hours, minutes.
Right.
Only hours if there's a line.
When I say hours, I mean to have it fully functional.
Yeah.
And you
With
have
your
to
debit
check-
card and everything. Yeah.
Exactly.
Debit card.
Yeah.
Right? But if you have a bank account at a particular bank and you want to open up another
A separate-
account,
oh, they put you through the same
you go
process.
through
Where do you
the
live?
process. Now,
I live in the
that-
house with the mortgage you gave me.
The root cause of that is the environment of overregulation that
No discretion.
that we are not responsible for. That is being pushed down to jurisdictions such as the Bahamas. KYC is an important component of your license to operate.
Know your customer.
But let me tell you, my good friend, and we don't have to belabor on it, I've researched this thing to the yang yao. I can tell you the Financial Transaction Act of 2000 and what it says. It talks about having reasonable pieces of ID to verify reasonably your identity, not your nationality.
Right.
And yes, I know the rules, but the reality is that was when we had a paper national insurance card.
Right, exactly.
We've got, to your point, we've got to be able to be versatile.
Right.
Things have changed,
Right.
so let's change things.
Right.
When we only had a piece of paper that bought Ben for national insurance card, I get it.
Cards,
It was
yeah.
different, right.
Uh-huh.
But this should at least be, this is all I have to say. This is all I have to say tomorrow, that this is optional.
Yeah.
That you can have a passport or a national security insurance card or a driver's license. You need two of them.
Right.
And then you know what? Everyone carries this. Everyone carries a driver's license.
Right.
Suppose you don't fly.
No, you're
know?
you're absolutely right. And somehow, I don't know how we're going to get away from this when you have jurisdictions such as the United States or Europe where they're chasing tax dollars. They're trying to monitor
I agree.
their citizens.
But I'm going to leave you at this one because we're going to go to break, right? They ain't monitoring us, man.
Right.
They monitoring their people.
No, they're not.
They don't care about a plumber opening up a $B account for $300 a week.
Exactly. But the banks are not using discretion.
Exactly. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields, we're calmed again. Calmed again. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. How are you doing, Rogan?
I'm okay.
And our guest today is Minister of State Khaalis Rolle, Minister for Investments, correct?
Yes.
And this is the reason why we're talking about the business thing. And let me make a very clear thing here. This is not just about foreign investment. Forget about that. That's what, we think investment, we think foreign investment. The biggest set of folks who are blocked, who are thwarted, who are frustrated, are Bahamians who are trying to open businesses. People who are trying. I've said I don't know the business license process because I'm not in business. But look, you have vendors who are subverting the law in my view because they don't have business licenses, et cetera, to the extent that they should have. But then they don't because that's an onerous process. So rather than encourage business, when we talk about how do we incentivize Bahamians to be in business, rather than prevent them from being in business, because it seems to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that the philosophy, and I think you're the first one I'm saying this to in a government capacity, the philosophy of government and of the public service seems to me is one of wealth distribution and one of maintaining the status quo of them being the employer, as opposed to one of encouraging business so that wealth can then be expanded. Is there any validity in that?
I think in some regards there is validity in it, but when you look at the structure of our economy, governments have always been focused on the big ticket items because they realize that as you go along that continuum, that big ticket item will give life to the smaller businesses. Now, what we haven't done, and I said this in September of 2012, we have been one of the best countries at attracting large foreign direct investors. If we had a model that was finely tuned, the downstream business for Bahamians, we would get a lot more. So what we end up doing is, we bring these large projects to market, and to facilitate them, we end up having sub-businesses, subcontractors from abroad, right, feeding that.
So there's a little integration, right?
Yeah, disproportionately.
Right.
When Bahamians, if we focus
on building Bahamian business,
right?
See, the caveat to what you're saying is this: we have always been focused on this big ticket item thing, but what that does, and George Smith, you're not the only one who could quote when you said something. I could quote when other people say something. Right. George Smith was on the show, and he said one of the problems that we had in the transition from colony to independent is that we focused on getting people jobs.
Right.
So we go for these big ticket items, and you know what the big impact is? Jobs. You've been in the meetings. I've been in the meetings. Every time you discuss a thing, it's how many jobs is that going to create?
Right.
Not how many businesses is that going to create? How many jobs? Right.
Right.
Because as you know, the success of a country, of an economy, is small business.
Of course.
So the question is then, how does this government, and when I say that I'm talking about in the generics, I'm talking about a Bahamian government, make a transition that doesn't leave focus on foreign development investment, because every jurisdiction wants to attract that.
Right.
But how do you balance the model by incentivizing small local Bahamian businesses?
Two things. Two things you have to focus on. One, there's a national investment policy that has been developed to give life to certain businesses or certain areas that are reserved for Bahamians. So, every so often you may have an exception where a company that isn't a Bahamian company is given permission to operate in that space. But largely, it's protected for Bahamians. The environment for Bahamian business owners to operate has been challenging. some of the challenge is government related, and some of the challenge is private sector related. And the major impediment to most business is access to capital. The cost of capital in the Bahamas and elsewhere in the Caribbean is too high. You can go and you can borrow the same amount of money, less collateralized in Miami or in the States somewhere, and you come here and you have to be over capitalized. In some instances, I had an overdraft that was 130% cash secured. But my banker gave me hell when I wanted my overdraft renewed. He wanted me to provide him with all sorts of documentation. He wanted updated financial statements. I mean, hell, man, I have 30% more in my account that I'm asking you to give me an overdraft for. So there's no doubt, and I mean, I come from a banking background. There's no doubt that the banking protocols in this country have always been, not particularly friendly toward business. But having said all that, again, from a government perspective, because this is where you are now, right? What then does the government do? See, for instance, it's not good enough just to protect an industry. Right. Because if I can't enter it, then you're not protecting me anything for me. Exactly. But I look at examples, and we brought it up several times in the show. We have a scenario. You want to talk about protection? We have a scenario where the Bahamian retail spender, clothing specifically, spends 5 times as many dollars in Miami than he does here. Okay? Now, you also have people who are trying to be good businessmen in retail, and you see them all over the place. Right. Mom and pop shops, Rogies, dry goods and notions and all this type of stuff. Yeah, she got it. Yeah. Rogies, Rogies blouses or whatever. Right. So the thing is, right? The reality, though, is Rogie can't compete with Miami. Now, I don't understand, and I've been trying to push this through, why, if we see that removing duty, now that we have that, removing duty off of clothing, which is an essential item. So it's not just a business incentive issue here now; it's also a poverty alleviation issue, right? Right. So because it's a basic need: clothing, medicine, food. You remove duty off of clothing. Instead of we selling a multiple of a fifth of the clothing in the Bahamas to Bahamians, we now increase that to 3 times. You've collecting VAT. So you now have at least 3 times 7.5%, which the replacement on the duty, and then for whatever shortfall there is, you're opening up new businesses. They're paying property taxes. There's rental incomes. There's light and water. There's all sorts of other spin-off, because now what you've done is create or remove barriers to entry into business, right? Because duty is up front. Right. And VAT isn't. Front-loaded, yeah. So these are the kind of I suppose the word is, are we, Khaalis, are we innovative? Yeah. What separates us from that innovative thought is actually knowing how to get from idea or thought to execution. And I can tell you.
I just drink water. I'm
sure they're not devoid of ideas. It's just the execution.
See, look, I can tell you, we've been having, these are age-old discussions. Not the first time we've sat down and we've had discussions on our impediment to development. The challenge we will continue to face is if we don't now take a disciplined and structured approach. We've for too long decided that we're going to manage things based on impulse and emotion, and that's not necessarily bad, because there are some things that you can accomplish using that route. But because we've done it a certain way for so long and we're in that comfort zone, anything outside of that comfort zone is foreign, it's difficult. And we're not going to take the time to study and understand how to get there.
But we live in a world, Minister, right, where we're not the first
Right.
on the block here. Okay, you look at places. We're gonna take a break. Okay, Ace is here. Yeah, let him come in too. We'll take a break. We'll be right back, and then we'll bring Ace in and we'll join the conversation. We'll be right back. In addition to having Rogan Smith as our astute and whatever co-host, we also have the remarkable Anthony Ace Newbold joining us, and our guest is Minister. He's from the Belgian Congo. He's only hang out in Africa. He don't even bother with
That's the motherland.
Yeah, the motherland.
You need to go there.
By the way, let me recommend to everyone, and we'll do it at the end, this program on PBS called, I think it's called Africa, Ancient Civilizations by Robert Gates.
Yes.
Superb,
Yes.
man.
Yes.
It'll just blow you away.
I got pieces of it.
Yeah, but our guest today is the Honorable Khaalis Rolle, who is the Minister of State for Investments. And what we are talking about, and Ace, please, and Rogan, please jump in. We're just talking
If we
about
could, James.
about how do we encourage business? That's all.
Yeah, and we have a lot of work to do, both from the government side as well as the private sector side. I had a young man send me a note recently on the small business development bill that we have been working on, and wanting to know why the government hasn't implemented that. And the simple answer is, we implement legislation all the time. The small business problem is a lot more than just legislation. We do not have second generation legislation that governs that at this time, but we also don't have second generation infrastructure to give it life. And part of that is the government's responsibility, but the other side is the private sector responsibility. If you ask any small business in the Bahamas what their challenge is, number one is money. The second is technical support. And some people would say opportunities. Opportunity isn't the issue, because when you look at the amount of foreign direct investment and what is needed to feed that, you look at the Atlantis. If you could take away, let's just say 60% of the support that is given to Atlantis by foreign companies and give that to Bahamian companies, you would have a burgeoning small business sector. But they need access to capital, they need the technical support, and they need the depth and breadth and the reach to be able to give you Atlantis quality delivery. So we have to rebuild somehow an entire system that would give life to small businesses.
Taking it back to investments, what's being done to strengthen strengthen our relationship with South Florida? We have so many Bahamians who go there and spend a great deal of money. I believe last year you addressed a U.S. forum. So what's being done to strengthen the relationship with those businesses in that part of the country?
We give them all of our money and they send us their tourists. That's how the relationship has been for so many years. South Florida is the largest port of embarkation for tourists coming into the Bahamas by cruise ship mainly. We have not taken a very surgical approach because we are a consumption-based economy. We don't produce many of the things that we consume. Until we start to find a way to produce what we're getting from South Florida, we're almost stuck in a trap.
How likely is that?
Well,
that we will produce any of that stuff that we keep buying from South Florida?
It's likely, It's likely. It may not be. It may not be in the quantities that would just completely blow what we're spending in Florida out of the water, but it could be in a measurable way that would at least start to transform our economy or give life to our economy, like food stuff.
Right.
If you were given the opportunity to drink sodas produced in the Bahamas by Aquapure or sodas that carry an international or an American brand, you are predisposed to looking first off at that international American brand. Bahamians have a love affair. You look at the fast food restaurants that we support in the Bahamas. The Wendy's Cable Beach, it's my understanding that is probably one of the highest grossing Wendy's
in their franchise.
In their franchise.
In the Bahamas.
In the Bahamas. In the Bahamas. You know, so.
But you have Bahamians who patronize the bamboo shacks
and Shack and Dirties and Rosalie's. I'm sorry.
Rosalie's, I know.
They do. But just as a matter of behavior, when you wake up in the morning and you want breakfast, if you look at the population, what percentage of that population will opt to go to Wendy's or McDonald's versus, I don't know.
I don't know if I agree with that. I see a desire by Bahamians to want to eat more Bahamian breakfasts. I think it just comes down to access. A lot of these places aren't open as early, and they can't churn it out the way that a Wendy's or McDonald's or whatever could churn.
So that's not a function of demand. That's a function of supply. You know, because you know I mean, it's just a basic economic model.
Yeah,
supply and demand.
Okay, and we talk about investments, and I'm coming late to this conversation. We talk about investments. We want Bahamians to invest in this economy.
Right.
Is there a pointed effort to encourage Bahamians to invest in the economy? Because we can't keep depending solely on tourism and banking.
Right.
Can't happen.
Right.
Tourism is great, but how do we feed the tourism market in all ways?
Right.
Whether it's food, or whether it's the trinkets that they buy.
Right. Well, let me give you an example of I think a legitimate attempt that is caught up in the rigors of politics in the Bahamas. And you know, when politics takes hold of it, you know, it don't go far. BAMSI, you know, say what you want about BAMSI and all of the ancillary things associated with it, you know, fire and all of that stuff.
And the unfinished buildings.
Right.
Which is serious stuff.
It is.
And I'm going to let you finish what you said, and then we need to talk about that.
It is serious stuff. But just look at the concept. Look at the opportunity. Why would we focus solely, hold the government accountable for the shortcomings? But if you really want to solve this economic problem, why not focus on the fact that there is a legitimate attempt to reduce that food import bill?
I don't think that people are not focusing on that. People want that to happen. But when they just see this great idea that this government has had, that your government has had, that you keep screwing up.
Well, look at it this way. We have many issues with governance. I won't run away from that. Nobody will run away from that. But we keep focusing on the issues and not the opportunity.
But
that will come.
And that's what overshadows the opportunities a lot of times.
But it shouldn't. It doesn't have to. You know, hold the government accountable for the shortcomings, but also hold the government accountable for making sure Bahamians can benefit from the opportunity. If you mention BAMSI, the first thing that your initial reaction would be the fire. Not, hey, this is a legitimate opportunity. How do we work extremely hard to get product to market at a quality that we can start to reduce our food import bill? I had a conversation with a Fulbright scholar who is working in the Bahamas now, who was reviewing the National Development Plan, the first draft of the National Development Plan. And she said, her impression of the opportunity that BAMSI presents is one that would position the Bahamas as a first world producer in agriculture.
Yeah, but
this
see,
is a Fulbright scholar.
The problem, Khaalis, the problem with Khaalis, the problem with we'll see, you know.
It's your show.
No, y'all go ahead.
No, man.
Minister, listen to me.
Yes.
And I'm sure most people want BAMSI to work, you know. I think the government has allowed all the other crap to overshadow it. I agree. Starting with the fire and no insurance and buildings ain't finished and bill over this and that. The government has allowed.
No, but people, nobody's asking anyone to overlook it. But if every discussion is focused, you know why they tell race car drivers not to look at the wall? Is because if you look at the wall, your most dominant thought is the wall. And that's where you're going to end up. That's where you're going to end up. Nobody wants a free pass on the issues that took place with BAMSI and the fire. Nobody wants a free pass on that.
You just want people to be fair in assessing the government, highlighting the good that it's done.
No, I'm not even asking for that. What I'm asking for is to give the opportunity a fair shake. Because what that opportunity does is the farmers that would be feeding BAMSI, that would benefit from the fact that there will be policies in place, there would be a system that gives agriculture a fighting chance for the first time in our history. For the first time in our history.
Minister, if I may, because I don't want to interrupt anyone, if I may, the problem seems to be to me is that when Ace asked about are these things possible, the problem is, I think, is people don't really want government to be involved in all of their life in this way. Right. The biggest problem that people have with regard to accomplishing anything is it always seems that they run up against the wall of government. Right. Everything that someone wants to do, they got to sit in someone's office in some public sector scenario to play. You know, so I'm just, you know, to the extent that we start off the show and Ace wasn't here at the beginning, how does government position itself to stay out the way? I go into these offices and it's as if these folks who are my servants feel they have a right to dictate to me. I'm the one investing the money. I'm the one hiring the people. And yet all they are is an obstacle to me being able to do that. Right. So how does that philosophy change?
Well, we have to create greater balance. Obviously, government should be a policy-making entity that provides an opportunity and an environment for people to conduct their affairs. Plain and simple. We've existed in a framework that is one inherited. You know, this goes right back to colonialism, where the government controlled everything in the country. We have not modernized. And you know, I listened to all of the discussion about what is wrong and how do we fix it. And what pains me greatly about all of this is, let me give you an example of when I really realized that we got a lot of work to do. I went to the UN to give a presentation on our National Development Plan. Man, I was so proud, so happy. You know, we're in the second stage of this plan that is seeking to transform this country. And I was the second presenter, I think. And every presenter after me talked about their third generation plans. They talk about bringing happiness to the people. Yeah. I don't get from very few people the excitement about taking an organized approach. We will continue to have these problems
because we have allowed, Minister, we've allowed a septic environment to develop. And I'm not disagreeing with you in terms of you have to organize it. But when you have allowed things to get, like the reality is you said third generation, because we should have done it 3 generations ago.
Right.
So we've allowed things to get to a point where it's more difficult to introduce something that should have been 3 generations ago.
So we can now let that be our limiting factor, or we can say it's time to do it this way, no exception. No political party should come to you during this campaign period without a plan to implement a national plan.
Well, the point is that you shouldn't be expecting them to be overjoyed. Do your plan. Execute your plan. Don't expect accolades. Just do it.
No. I'm not expecting accolades. I'm not expecting accolades. The same way you demand certain things from me, that should be on your list of demands.
Oh, absolutely. And bring the plan. That's chock a block full of innovative ideas to expand the economy, to diversify the economy, and stop. It should have been done 3 generations ago. We live enough Penland and the rest of those guys. Whatever they created, we're living off whatever they created today.
Right. Exactly.
We should be ashamed of ourselves because we ain't created nothing. Now, maybe this generation, we start with the National Development Plan. Let's see what comes out of that.
Ace. We can't. Let's see.
No.
What come out of it?
No, I'm not like that.
Right.
No, I'm. When I say let's see, we got to make something come out of it.
Right.
I'm driving down Madera Street, and then I go on to Mackey Street, and I drive down and I drive into Rosetta Street. And I say to myself, they're getting ready to pave the road. They're getting ready to pave the road because the election coming.
Right.
Piss me off, Minister.
Yeah.
Typical.
That's an insult to the people.
Yeah.
But we keep accepting the insult.
Right.
That you're supposed to pave the road.
Exactly.
You're supposed to put lights up there.
And on
You're
the
supposed to
election
give
year.
them water. Forget the election. We need to have elections every
In
year.
other words, it should be an ongoing program.
Instead
of
of
paving roads.
taking them 5 years to develop that national development plan and come up with some innovative
my quality of
ideas
life.
for whatever we need, we fooling around waiting to pave the road before election.
No. Let me put it to you this way. This is an insider's view, a member of Parliament's view, who represent a constituency that I started working in 2011.
Okay.
You could say whatever you want but me. You follow my Facebook page, you would see I never stopped working.
Okay.
Every month there was something.
Okay.
Road paving. I was beating Ministry of Works for road paving from 2012.
Okay.
2012. I had about 30 streets in Pinewood that I needed paved. So we got one Bahamix plan, very finite in its capacity. So Ryan ramming, when I got to jump in my car and drive around and plead. And I feel sorry for Ryan ramming sometimes because everyone is cussing him, everyone is pulling him. So they start paving in Pinewood, then they stop because somebody else beating him up, and if they have to go there.
Okay.
He started that. Somebody else is beating him up, so we got to go there.
We need another paving facility.
So it ain't
right?
that I'm waiting. I'm doing some paving today, but it ain't that I'm waiting for election. I started this a long time, but they start, they stop, they start, they stop.
But you can understand why people would question the motive if
Right.
they're seeing it during an election year.
Right. And that's
But this is a management issue, right?
Yeah.
management.
Because at the end of the day, first of all, I don't know if the government should be involved in paving, as opposed to how many businesses could be involved in paving.
Right.
And then you just pay those various businesses, so that instead of my good friend Ryan, who does a great job, having to deal with
Stressed out with other
50
people's
people
requests.
wanting 50 things at the same time, you got 10 people doing 50 things.
Right.
Because paving is never going to stop.
Right. There's a level of bureaucracy that exists. And sometimes, and I can tell you, I'm not here to defend the political side of this. I mean, people know me, and they know I'm plain spoken. They know, whatever I say it because, that's my reality and my existence. There's so many things I want to do, and I didn't want to wait until election. And in fact, there are certain things that I can do now, and I'm thinking, well, it's going to come off wrong. People will believe I'm only doing it.
We got to take a break.
Election.
I don't mean to interrupt you. We got to take a break, and we'll be right back. We'll talk with Minister Khaalis Rolle and Ace Newbold and Rogan Smith in a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith and Anthony Ace Newbold, president of the Bahamas Press Club, and our guest is the Minister of State, Minister Khaalis Rolle. And he has to leave in a couple of minutes. But let me ask you a question that hopefully we will ask of all politicians. And that is that we are now in our fourth year of independence. We have not essentially done any tweaking to our political structure. And we're going down the same rock hole, so to speak. I don't think that the Bahamian populace is going to take this much longer. It is obvious that the people in power are not motivated to change the status quo. And I just ask you, as a politician who is now seeking re-election, and, who knows what the outcome will be, obviously, what can you say that you can commit to publicly, not behind closed doors and all this type of stuff, but publicly, when, let's assume you win, that you would push for in terms of political reform, both at the party level, in terms of how candidates are put to the constituency, and how you are to respond to constituents versus responding to your political directorate?
Well, Ed, I've always said that the system of politics and the system of governance and how we exist needs to be modernized. I've never ran from that. I'm not going to make policy on the fly. I'm surgically focused on fixing this national issue, first and foremost. I believe once we start to deal with the real structure, all of those other things will start to be addressed in a way that would give us the results. I mean, you can complain about the party system and how individuals are brought to a constituency as much as you want. That is not the real fundamental issue. You can elect someone that is from you can only nominate someone from that constituency all you want. I've heard that on a number of occasions, but that doesn't change the fundamental issues that we face. And we have to change all of these major structural issues.
There's no doubt that structural issues have to be changed, but I beg to differ, because I think that the problem is that because, and I'm not necessarily including present company, but that the problem is that the allegiance is to the party. The allegiance is to the leader. The allegiance is not to the people who voted you to represent them. I'm being rhetorical and I say that. That is not the allegiance. And I think this is where people feel frustrated.
I don't know if that's 100% true. Let me tell you why it's not 100% true. 50% of the people that voted in my constituency didn't vote for me. They didn't want me. They did not want me.
Yeah, but you're still their representative.
But I'm still their representative.
Yeah.
For me, whenever I take a position, I have to be as considered in my approach to that as possible, because 50% of the people will not agree to it. So I'm in a structural catch-22. So every time I sit down and I deliberate about what positions to take, what next move I should take, there is no mistake that my allegiance, first and foremost is to my constituents.
I
Now-
ask, is that your government's position? Because the majority of the people in the Bahamas don't want you to be the government.
Well, how do you know that?
I look at the voters' rolls from
Did you-
2012.
Yeah.
Most of them didn't vote for you.
Most of them didn't vote for me, but the majority did.
Voted for you.
Right.
The majority of people who voted in 2012
Did not vote.
vote for the PLP.
But a simple majority did.
Yeah, we
A
know the
simple
numbers. We know
majority did.
numbers.
And I don't know.
He won
if
the most
there's-
votes.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
I don't know.
You
I don't
won
know.
the most votes
Right.
in your constituency.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
And
party.
so did all of your members who won their seats.
right.
The majority of the people, and I'm telling you, that's part of the problem that the PLP government has.
Well, that's
you
but
you
no.
refuse to accept that.
No.
Yeah,
Ace,
the
Ace.
majority of the
But
people
you
in the
can't-
Bahamas
but
did
you
not
can't-
vote for
but
you.
You can't reduce it to that. You
Listen,
can't reduce it to
our
that.
system-
Because
our
if you
system is what it
reduce
is.
if you reduce it to that, then we should not be the government.
Well, not only that, if we
The
We
reduce
system-
it to
need,
that,
we need to sort out our system.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
where I'm going
No,
back
but
to. That's where I'm coming to. We need to
So
sort our
you're
system
suggesting
out.
we should go to a republic type system.
I
don't know.
And I don't know that that's the answer because the majority of people didn't vote for
Right.
Donald
But
Trump.
let's talk about
No, we need to sort out our system.
Right.
Yeah,
So
but let's
I don't
talk
think there's
about-
a scientific way
yeah.
to do that.
But let's
Yeah,
talk
that
about
would- that would
representation
give you-
again, Mr. Rolle.
Yeah.
And you represent the Pinewood area,
Yeah.
low-lying area. Okay. So when I talk about representation, for instance, and this affects everyone, is to push, as an example, is to push the government to say no one can build another house in this area unless it's built in a way that is on stilts. Okay, as the codes in places like Jacksonville and other places are, so that when we have when we have another flood or hurricane, etc., that the standard is done in a way that whoever the constituent is, they're not having to deal with this. That's what I'm pushing for as the representative for this area.
Right.
That we cannot allow the building code to rest as it is.
Right.
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Right. And those are some of the things that I'm doing. You know, I think for the first time since that area was constructed, we have a real viable plan to deal with flooding.
Yeah.
Now, you have to make a determination whether or not you want to break down every home and start over.
You can't do
You
that.
can't do that, right?
But you don't have to build a new home to be subject to the same thing.
So most people that are building new homes, they make provisions for the fact that the land is low lying. If you look at the foundations
higher.
now, yeah.
But that should be the
60.
code. That's the
Right.
point I'm making.
Right.
You can't, all you could do is help to establish things like codes.
Right.
Listen, man, I know you got another. You're more than welcome to
Yeah,
stay.
no, this is a good conversation.
If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay. So Ace can grill you down.
Beat up on me,
Let Ace grill you down. I'm gonna go use the bedroom. I'll be right back.
I know you got to leave. You taking a commercial?
No.
No?
Yeah.
I believe that, and we were joking off air, that we have to find a group of politicians who come into Parliament and say, I may only be here for 5 years, but I can blow this up and put it back together so it works for people.
Right.
But they
Because
can't do it in isolation. I mean, they still have to be accountable to a party and to if they're a
Right.
cabinet minister to
Yeah,
cabinet.
it
they can't
has
do
to
it.
be universally agreed by both government and opposition that we want to do it a little bit different. I mean, we can't even agree on the fact that, you sit in the Parliament building, and I've sat in the Parliament in Turks and Caicos. It may not be a priority. It may not be a priority at this time, but we can't have a discussion on that without it becoming a major firestorm, political firestorm. And at some point, the political maturity has to get to the point. Until we get a level of political maturity where we can have a discussion just based on the merits, if it means that we have to prioritize some things, fine. But let's agree to the direction. If we can't agree on direction, we will continue to be, spinning around in circles. And that's one of the reasons why we have not progressed as far as we should as a country. There's so many things that we need to update and fix. And I sit down, and as a young person in politics who want to see so much done, it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Are you frustrated by the process that you can't get a lot of stuff done that you wanted to?
Well, I think everybody is frustrated. Everybody
But
is.
I'm asking you.
Yeah, of course.
You're frustrated
I've said that. We're not making as much. I mean, we've done a lot of work. I'd be the first to say, we've done a lot of work, but we can do a lot more work. We can do a lot
the
more.
Westminster system? Do you go to Republic? What do you do with that? Because you could go in there, as you know, best intentions.
Yeah.
That system grabs a hold of you, man, and you catch yourself quick.
Yeah.
Well,
It ain't gonna happen.
But because we've sat down, we've actually. Let me let Ed talk.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
We've sat down.
Show. You just keep talking.
Yeah, we've sat down.
I want to talk, but I want to say what I want to say.
A major,
I can't get back, turn off the mics.
I mean, no, Ed would do that. A major component of a major pillar of the National Development Plan is governance. And everything that we're talking about, we have identified. That State of the Nation report was a very telling document. We went and there was no holds barred. We didn't sanitize it. We wanted to have an honest discussion with the Bahamian public. It was unedited. If you go through, even though it was summarized, the document that is out there, there's a huge document. And we studied every single aspect of our existence. Governance from the public sector standpoint, governance from the political standpoint. And we went throughout the country researching and talking to people. We had COB, University of the Bahamas now, private sector consultants, local consultants, foreign consultants, a great deal of input. So we know.
But you know what the issue is going
It's
to
on
be,
the shelf.
And listen.
It's going to be executing all those plans.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to come down
And
to.
I spoke with Mr. Stubbs and Dr. Rolle about that. You need to make sure the rest of us know it's in that document. Because right now you're keeping it to yourself.
No.
It's
That's been published.
It's been published?
Yeah.
Where you live?
It's been published.
I know it's been published. Where you live?
Ace, you can have access. We were bringing people in as they request and showing them open book, whatever you want to see.
So you think, my question is, you think that National Development Plan has gotten wide enough
No, I don't
exposure
think. No, I
to the
don't think
Bahamian
so.
people?
It's
No, I
never
don't think
wide
so.
enough, right? But I don't think it's.
It has been out
No, I
there.
don't think so.
Now, let me tell you what the major issue is. It's not that it's not available and that we have not made ourselves. It's widely available. It's just now people have to see it as an important part. The same way when someone posts some crap on Facebook.
Oh yeah, and they run to go see it.
And
I think
within 20 minutes,
Yeah.
30,000 views.
Yeah. The problem is
So maybe
people don't
I
have
need
the people don't have enough. The people don't have people don't have confidence in plans. That's one of the problems. Is that we talk about plans and then you see very little executable evidence or executed evidence of plans. But I want to ask you again, going back to your role as a representative. For instance, how many? Well, we got a break. We got to take a break, and we'll come right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here, along with Rogan Smith, Ace Newbold, and Khaalis Rolle, Minister of State for Investments, is here. We're talking about governance. This is that part of the show. We're talking about governance, and the question I want to ask you is local government, about the empowerment of the people. So, Ace talked about breaking down the Westminster system, and those are very big constitutional obstacles for the sake of argument. Okay, you got to go to referendum and this and that and the whole thing. But we have a local government act. We have a but no one. Hey,
That's it. That's it.
what no one does is give two things: rights to minorities and power from politicians by referendum. But anyway, which you can do. Tomorrow, you talk about you haven't had plans, but tomorrow is you have a local government act, and that local government act can be buttressed to the extent that, let's just say, Abaco, Pinewood, can be so empowered that they have a allocation of, say, property tax dollars or whatever, so that they have the capacity to run their own affairs. They can go and fix the pothole and hire a private contractor. They can hire someone to deal with picking up garbage. They can hire someone to deal with the verges. What say you about creating this scenario? And because it's not only a scenario of empowerment to the people, but it's also a way of training preparing people how to be in government.
Right.
Yeah.
No, of course. And I think
So what's your position?
If you look at local government in the Family Island, it's functioning. It's I think it is. Now the big challenge they have in many instances is a resource challenge, and
they're at the whim of the central government.
Yeah, they are at the whim of the central government, and I don't know that you can ever make a separation. There's an inextricable link between the central government and any arm that is responsible for execution. There has to be an oversight. There has to be a measure.
No, there doesn't have to be. See, this is the problem, Minister, with all due respect.
So
right?
how do you? So if local government is given its
local government isn't given anything.
Right.
See, this is where we have to, and this is where I get passionate. It's their money.
Right.
They're not given anything. You're taking from them. The property tax is collected by Abaco. I'm just using an example. That's their money. It now goes to the central treasury, and they have to beg back for some to fix their park or to fix a pothole. What I'm saying is, I'm not talking about running.
So how do I account for the parts of the country that is a net consumer as opposed to a net contributor to the treasury and giving them resources?
I'll tell you how. Property taxes are local. This is a universal tax structural scenario. Okay, there are some islands and some constituencies that collect more property taxes than others. So what you do is you create a property tax pool.
Right.
Out of that property tax pool, you say each constituency that is able to keeps a certain percentage of that property tax. The rest goes to the pool.
Right.
The pool is then used to distribute to places that don't have the resources to do that. But the main thing is that it is a formula. It is a I don't have it. I don't have the formula. It's a strategy. We're just being theoretical here. But the main thing is to give them independence.
Right.
To say, this is my money, this is my council, and this is how we're going to pave the road, or we're going to fix the pothole, or we're going to pick up the garbage. The Minister of, Environmental Health should not be sitting around worrying about how the garbage is getting picked up in Mayaguana.
But he doesn't.
Well, he does.
Local government has that responsibility now. I mean, your method is about the math of it. And
it's about the independence of it.
Right.
That's the thing. It should be statutory scenarios where basically there's a separation, and the central government has no say in who picks the garbage.
Well,
and I don't think that's the case now. Someone can call someone in Nassau and say, "Well, Oakdale got the garbage contract."
Well, I mean, I don't know if you're ever going to, and even with local government. You may still have that concern. And that's why I believe that you have to have, in issues like that, you have to have a layered type system so that, you have a measure of accountability or checks and balance that would give you the best results with the limited resources. Now, I say it boils down to the math of it, because even if you only allocate a percentage of the taxes collected, you still have to run the central government. And when you start to denude the central government's revenue in a way that would keep a major separation between local government revenue and central government revenue, then you may run into problems. And then, because now what you are doing is you're creating a scenario where the pool that requires most of the resources may not be able to fund.
I understand the theory.
Yeah.
There's probably no Caribbean island.
Right.
There are very few countries where there's not a local government structure in place. Right. We're not inventing something here.
Right.
I'm not trying to invent a new way of doing things. This is norm. The President of the United States doesn't worry about the garbage contract in Biloxi, Mississippi.
No.
The reality is yes, you have to do it in a way that there's subsidy and distribution,
Right.
but the money is being spent
Right.
or not being spent.
Right.
So yeah, the government is responsible for certain things.
Right.
And the local government is responsible for certain things. They just have to figure out the math.
Exactly, and you have to do that, and you have to, and that's just like the fight that you commonly see between in the U.S. the federal government and the state government.
Federal government, state
Look,
government,
look
and
at
local
the
government.
feds and the local and the state government.
and every you go
borrow
there,
from them.
Yeah.
No, and exactly, and they argue in court because it's statutory, where the central government shouldn't be stepping in.
Right.
And what is states' rights? What is a local municipality's rights? All of those things are very decided.
Yeah, well, you just decide.
Yeah.
Central
That's what I do.
government,
Yeah. And
as the
the
central
point-
government, this is what the central government is responsible for.
The
Whether
point-
it's infrastructure or whatever else it is.
Right.
The point
And
we're getting at is
everything
we
else,
need decentralization.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Would you agree to that?
I won't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm asking Minister if he agrees that we are too centralized.
In some instances, we are. In some instances, I honestly believe we are. There are some powers that I think should be delegated to local government that is currently in central government. But, gentlemen,
You got to run.
Yeah.
You got in the text now. You see? See that
Yeah,
last
no,
one? I
you
see him
gotta
lose a little
let him
focus.
You better go.
Hey, you lost a little focus there because the text coming. All right. Listen, it's been a pleasure. I know you got to go far.
It's been a great pleasure
yeah.
coming here, and I'm going to make it a point to come back to finish this discussion.
Conversation. We'll make it a
I
point to
won't be
invite
here,
you
but
back.
I'm sure.
Yeah. We'll make sure you're here, Ace, okay?
Right. Make sure you see him, man.
All right. Well, listen, we'll see you and enjoy. Have a safe ride to your next function.
Right. And the last thing I would like to leave on is that I met a guy by the name of Vinton Cerf in Dominican Republic. I think it must have been 2004, 2005, and he gave me his business card. And I tell the story often. And on his card, he had Chief Internet Evangelist. And I asked him, why do you call yourself Internet Evangelist? And he said, because if I wasn't an evangelist for the Internet, it wouldn't be what it is today. And I say that, the National Development Plan, I need some evangelists. We need some evangelists to get it to what it needs to be.
All right, man. Thanks for coming by.
I'll look for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Minister,
No,
you're leaving your contact.
Yeah.
So
Don't
See,
leave that
normally-
one.
don't leave that one.
Yeah, we do. This is a
Take care.
show in reverse because normally we have our banter first and then we have our guests afterwards. But
Yeah.
it goes back, Ace Newbold, to the age-old subject we talk about of how do we get to a different point? Are we stuck? Are we just stuck forever? I can't believe that.
Not forever, but what I said, you need some people in there. And, you get tired of me talking about leadership. You need some people in there who say, I can make you do this. A couple of people, not one person. A couple of people who saying, this is not working. This is not working for me. This is not working for my party. This is not working for the people. This is not working for the country. We are going to do this. And it may be a little painful, but we're going to do it.
I don't even know if you need many people. I think you are right that in our system, if you had a leader who had that point of view,
Hey, it could happen.
it could happen.
And talking about that, the Minister of State was just here. Go and register, please.
Yeah.
I promise Mr. Hall I will say that every
It's
time I get on the
increasing
air.
now, but
Yeah, but
You're
I
right.
spoke to him today, and he said, I'm looking in my camera now. Ain't nobody downstairs registering. We got 135,000 up thereabouts registered. Y'all go to register.
So how much is the total
Take,
estimated register should be? What do they think, Rogan?
well,
know.
we had
I don't know.
172
Okay.
in 2012, so I don't know that we will get there.
Speaking of leadership, we've seen some. You weren't here. You were here before but I don't think you were here recently when Mr. McCartney. No, were you here when he
We
left?
didn't talk about it, though.
You weren't here when we
yeah,
talked.
but I wasn't here to talk.
Okay.
We didn't get to talk about it.
because now he's resigned.
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand why he took the appointment. Gave him a national platform.
Someone said to me today, and I don't know how this augurs well, and I think they were leaning DNA.
Okay.
They said they're going to take their vote and do it where they think it does the most damage.
The most damage for who?
Well, I think they were opposed to government.
Okay,
to existing government.
And they
Get
said they're
damaging
going to vote for the DNA?
No, they didn't say that. That's the point.
Okay.
They didn't say.
They didn't say
they
that. You're saying you think they're leaning that way?
No. I think that they were a DNA leaning person.
Were a DNA leaning
but they
person.
said that after reflection, they feel that they need to take their vote and do what they think is going to have the most, let me say damage, the most impact.
Okay.
So I think people are beginning to. You guys are on this. Rogan gets 1 million emails, and I'm kind of.
I just watch all that stuff that's on there.
I think that people are coming to some grips about what do people stand for. Do you get that impression that they're starting to question what do people really stand for? What's their motive?
Some of that.
I don't get that.
I just think. I think people are we fatigued. We have political fatigue. I think people, for the most part, have made up their minds who they're going to vote for.
I think so too.
And whatever you do, whether you have elections in 10 weeks, whether you have it in 3 months, I think people have made up their minds who they're going to vote for. But again, we're talking about numbers again. Yeah. Right?
This is more on a psychological, spar, right? What goes through people's minds? We're just speculating here, right? But what goes through someone's mind who says, "I'm running for a leader," and you and everyone else in the room say, "Well, that's not going to happen." But that person is convinced it's going to happen. And then they say also they're doing this for the benefit of the country. They're opposed to one group of people. They feel that they've been terrible. What does it take in someone's mind to rationalize?
You have to be out of your mind. No, I know you weren't expecting that. You got to be out of your mind because normally you're just one of the crowd. The person who thinks they're going to be the leader, who believe they have the capacity to be the leader, has to be out of their mind. They ain't thinking like me and you. They somewhere else. They're like, y'all follow me. Nah, you hope they ain't crazy.
So you go to you remember the people at the CCP? Remember the people I tell you on the wood? The people on the wood?
Yes, I remember.
So in
Mr.
the meeting,
Penn,
in the meeting, see, because this is what I always do. Me, you, Rogan, and Kendrick, we say, let's meet by Rogan house.
Yeah.
Okay? And Rogan says, and Rogan is the leader. And she puts before us a plan. There's only 4 of us in the room, though. And it's only the same 4. Sometimes it's only 3. Sometimes it's 2, depending on who's traveling. Okay? And we have a plan. And is this what you're talking about, being out of your mind? Because because everyone else looking inside saying there's only 4 of them in there, you know.
No, just you have to, and out of your mind may be a little
harsh
off the wall. You have to be that confident. You got to have that much self-confidence.
You're just not thinking straight when you're so drunk off of the potential to have so much power. It doesn't even matter what somebody on the outside says. You're just so concerned with what you want. It just clouds your judgment.
It's not necessarily always a bad thing.
But Ace, you see, if you know where Balmoral Island is?
Yeah.
Okay. If I stand on the Cable Beach side,
yeah,
and I cannot swim,
yes.
I just can't swim. I know I can't swim, right? I say, but I can swim over there because I'm confident I can swim over there.
Yeah, well, we're talking about something else.
No,
and we talked about that the last time I was here.
What's that?
You look at situations and you know there's no way in hell they're going to turn out good, or there's no way that situation can happen. And you got to know that unless you are out of your mind.
But you got to. I'm starting to lean with what you said. You have to be out of your mind because they just don't see it.
You know, Rogan, it's like saying, well, you hear Jesus could walk on water. So I know I can't swim, but I can walk. No, you're sinking. I'm watching you sink.
That's crazy out of your mind.
that's another level.
To vote, yeah.
Yeah. But see, but the reason I bring that up is either way, either side. Someone believe we got to go. Kendra's saying we're
Yeah,
gonna end.
and
but we'll be back. You know, Rogan's gonna be here Monday with Adrian Gibson. That should be a very interesting show.
Yeah.
I'll be off island, and we'll have you back when we. Can you sign up for Thursday? I'd like to continue this conversation. Let's sign up for Thursday.
Please.
Come on Thursdays. Whoever guests will have a rearrange.
Yeah, okay.
So let's do it for Thursday.
We'll do it on Thursday.
All right.
We'll do it on Thursday.
All right. We'll see you on Thursday. Rogan, have a good weekend.
Oh, thank you. Same to you.
All right.
Thanks again.